Here is tonight's bedtime lesson. Tonight's bedtime lesson is about frost and ice tonight. We're going to start off with ice and then frost. Ice first. There's three parts to ice and and 2 parts for frost. Ice. Ice is simply water substance in a solid form. It occurs in the atmosphere and on the Earth's surface, and can take many different forms such as ice pellets, snow, frost, rime, glaze, and hail. Ice can form over the surface of garden ponds, lakes, and even rivers during exceptionally cold periods. It can also form over road surfaces, cars, building, and vegetation in the form of black ice, frost, or snow. The first one is called glaze or clear ice. Glaze is a smooth, transparent type of ice that forms when drizzle or rain hits a cold surface. It can either be formed when supercooled rain or drizzle comes into contact with the ground, or when non-supercooled liquid comes into contact within a surface that's well below 0 degrees Celsius. Due to its transparent nature, glaze can often be mistaken for a wet surface and can be highly dangerous, particularly when driving. It can also be damaging when it gains sufficient thickness. The extra weight caused by the accumulation of glaze can bring down branches and on rare occasions, telephone lines. It can also pose a serious hazard to ships by adding weight to the structure. Next, black ice. Glaze that forms on roads and pathways is often termed black ice due to its transparent nature, allowing the road surface below to be seen through it. Black ice is particularly dangerous since it can appear almost invisible to drivers. Ice pellets. Ice pellets form when snowflakes start to melt as they fall from the cloud, then fall through sub-freezing air, when they refreeze into grain-like particles. Sometimes the snow may only partially melt and will fall as snow encased in a thin layer of ice. Ice pellets are generally smaller than hailstones and bounce when they hit the ground. Showers of ice pellets tend to be quite short-lived, but can still accumulate on the ground in a similar way to snow through forming a smaller, denser covering. Now, hail. Hail is a shower of round or irregularly shaped pieces of ice known as hailstones. They originate as small ice particles or frozen raindrops that are caught in the updraft of ice inside a cumulonimbus cloud. As they ascend, they gather water on the surface and grow. How large they grow depends upon how much water is in the cloud and how strong the updraft is. Eventually, the pieces of ice become so heavy that they can no longer be supported by the updraft and then they fall to the ground. Most hailstones are less than 25 millimeters in diameter, but they can grow up to 150 millimeters in diameter, with potential to cause widespread damage to property and crops. Our next part of this lesson is about ice spikes. Ice spikes form as a result of the way water freezes from the outside in. As the skin of ice thickens, if a weakness or hole appears in the ice skin, the liquid water gets squeezed up through the hole. The water that is squeezed out then forms the beginning of the spike, and the process continues until the tip of the spike freezes. For an ice spike to form, the air conditions need to be just right. It can't be too cold or the water freezes too quickly. And a little breeze but not too windy helps the process. Our final part of ice is about ice pancakes. Ice pancakes are a phenomenon where discs of ice anywhere from 20 to 200 centimeters wide are formed, creating a unique spectacle. Ice pancakes are relatively a rare phenomenon that tend to occur in very cold oceans and lakes. They are mostly frequently seen in the Baltic Sea and around Antarctica, but also relatively frequently on the Great Lakes of the United States and Canada. They require some rather specific conditions in order to form and can form in one of two distinct ways. In oceans, seas, and lakes, the disks are created when waves cause forming pieces of ice to knock against each other, rounding their edges as they freeze and grow. Small rims are created on the edges as the knocking causes splashing water to freeze and join the rim. They are also believed to form when foam on a river begins to freeze, which begin join together as they are sucked into an eddy, a swirling current of water, and formed into a circular shape as a result. As other bits of frozen foam and ice hit this forming disk, they freeze to it and increase its size. Whilst ice pancakes look solid disks, they are often quite slushy and easily break apart when lifted up. However, when given the conditions to consolidate, ice pancakes can end up binding with each other to form sheet ice, and in rougher conditions, waves can move these sheets of ice, causing them to bend and crack to create ice ridges. Now we are moving on to is about frost. Now, frost occurs when the temperature of the air in contact with the ground is below the freezing point of water, ground frost or air frost respectively. Now I'm going to tell you three types of frost. The first one is called ground frost. A ground frost refers to the formation of ice on the ground, objects or trees, whose surface have a temperature below the freezing point of water. During situations when the ground cools quicker than the air, a ground frost can occur without an air frost. A grass frost, an unofficial type of ground frost, can occur when other surfaces such as concrete or road surfaces don't experience a frost due to their better ability at holding onto any warmth. If it is possible for a grass frost to occur in late spring or even early summer when the risk of more widespread frosts have disappeared, and is something that gardeners in particular need to be aware of. Next, air frost. An air frost occurs when the air temperature falls to or below the freezing point of water. An air frost is usually defined as the air temperature being below the freezing point of water at a height of at least 1 meter above the ground. And our final one is glaze and rime. Frost is sometimes confused with glaze or rime. Rime is a rough white ice deposit which forms on vertical surfaces exposed to the wind. It is formed by supercooled water droplets of fog freezing on contact with a surface it drifts past. Glaze can only form when supercooled rain or drizzle comes into contact with the ground, or non-supercooled liquid may produce glaze if the ground temperature is well below 0 degrees Celsius. Glaze is a clear ice deposit that can be mistaken for a wet surface and can be highly dangerous. And finally, forecasting frost. What conditions are needed? I'm going to name a frost. The most common type of frost, called ground frost, occurs on clear winter nights when the temperature of surface falls below 0 and there is not enough moisture in the air to form the frost. As a general rule of thumb, if the air temperature is forecast to below between 0 and 4 degrees Celsius on a night with little or no cloud and night winds, then you need to bear in mind that there may be frost outside in the morning. The closer it is to 0, the greater the chance of seeing it. If the air temperature is forecast to be below 0, then the risk of seeing frost is much higher. But why is this? When you look for overnight temperatures on your app or during a weather broadcast, these are for air temperatures. However, the temperature of the ground or perhaps your car can often drop a few degrees below this on a clear night. This is because of surfaces including tarmac, grass and metal cars cooling first overnight, and these then cool the air above them. This means that the surfaces usually get to a lower temperature than the air by the morning, and this is why you may notice a frost on the windscreen even if the car thermometer, which measures air temperature, reads above 0. Different surfaces lose heat at different rates overnight. You might have sometimes noticed a frost on your car but not on the ground, or frost on the grass but not on the pavement. The grass tends to lose more heat than tarmac, and so it is quicker to fall below zero overnight. Weather forecasters sometimes refer to this as a rural frost. You must bear in mind that even patchy cloud can affect whether the frost forms, though, as the cloud acts like a blanket to stop the surfaces losing heat so quickly, and so on cloudy nights the surface temperatures are closer to the air temperature. Can you get frost when it's not freezing? These situations aren't that common but can occur when the air temperature has a very low humidity. That means if it's too dry, and there is no moisture available to form it. However, if you decide to wash your car on a morning like this, you would soon see the water turning to ice. When the air has very high humidity, fog can form. If the temperature is below zero in the fog, then it is called freezing fog, and forms rime ice as the fog touches surfaces and can be similar in appearance to the frost. That's all for today. See you soon. Time for our quiz.